We first told you in a True North exclusive about a criminal complaint of obstructing justice against senior members of the RCMP, both active and retired, that is being actively investigated by the OPP last August. Since then, much has happened behind the scenes. The OPP have actively engaged in interviews trying to get to the bottom of the complaints alleged by two of the four members who were involved in the 2007 tasering death of Polish traveler Robert Dziekanski at YVR Airport. The two, Corporal Monty Robinson, retired, and Constable Jerry Rundle, still on active duty, have sent nervous ripples through the rigid force. The details of all of this have been dealt with elsewhere on this site. Two things happened this week to take note of in all of this. One of the subjects of the investigation, Brenda Butterworth Carr, who retired as the commanding officer of E Division, BC, and took an appointment as the Director of Police Services for the provincial government. She resigned her position, discussed recently in this space. This week the government announced her replacement would be Wayne Rideout, another retired senior ranking Mountie from BC. That decision is surprising and demonstrative of how little the government does in terms of background checks. Rideout is a central figure in the YVR incident and one of the subjects of the OPP investigation. At the time, Rideout was the officer in charge of the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team, IHIT. Shortly after the incident, RCMP spokesperson Pierre Lemaitre held a press conference at YVR and inadvertently gave out inaccurate information to the media. When it became clear the information was not correct, Lemaitre wanted to correct the record. It would have been a simple matter. He would have said, quote, "I apologize for the information I gave you. It was based on preliminary information. Further investigation has revealed, etc., unquote." And that would have been the end of the matter. But Rideout, inexplicably, told him not to correct the record. Lemaitre was then replaced as the spokesman on the file and was replaced by Corporal Dale Carr, who also never corrected the record but rather had to play defense on why the RCMP misled the media, who screamed cover-up. Carr was put in an untenable position simply because Rideout made a stunningly bad decision. Lemaitre was then transferred to a traffic enforcement division and couldn't escape the feeding frenzy of the media, who smelled a cover-up. He felt like he was being blamed for lying to the media and was never able to correct the record. He ultimately took his own life in 2013, never having made the error that initiated everything that followed, including the Braidwood Commission of Inquiry, which ultimately resulted in a special prosecutor who charged the YVR4 with perjury. Two of the four were convicted and spent time in jail, despite doing absolutely nothing wrong. And now Rideout will be in charge of police programs province-wide. One of the two who were convicted and jailed was Kwesi Millington. He wielded the taser on that fateful night. At least 3 separate reviews determined that he and the others acted appropriately and according to their training in how they handled Dziekanski. Yet he was convicted and went to jail, including at least 2 months in solitary confinement in a Kingston pen. This week Millington settled his lawsuit with the Mounties. Most details of the settlement were not disclosed, but we learned that one of the settlement conditions was for the RCMP to provide a letter essentially supporting Millington in obtaining a pardon from the parole board. That letter essentially admits the Mounties have been wrong throughout this process. When Millington got out of prison, I met with him and his wife Cindy for lunch in downtown Toronto. He recounted the details of his ordeal, and frankly, for what the RCMP has put him through, I hope the settlement was substantial. He deserves it. It remains to be seen where this settlement places the RCMP in the matter of the OPP investigation, but it certainly puts them in a more difficult position. For True North, I'm Leo Knight.